In today's video, I'm going to show you how to download these icons for various assets directly from the Exchange website. Now, these icons are not available through an API and also not available to download, on Bybit Exchange. I'm going to use Bybit Exchange to demonstrate this process, but the steps that I'm about to show you are applicable for any exchange. Like I said, these icons are not available through API and also not available to download in bulk on any website. There are some services that provided, but you have to pay for to get these icons. Now, in this video, we're not going to pay for any service. I'm just going to use a quick and dirty script that we're going to run in the console, couple that with a simple Node.js app to automate this entire task. Again, the goal is to show you a quick and dirty way to, get this task done. The technical term for it is called web scraping, and there are dedicated tools for it like Puppeteer and Selenium, but they come with a learning curve. So, like I said, in this video, we're not going to use those tools. We're just going to use common sense and some very basic coding skills to automate this task. First, let's look at the source of this icon. If I do a right click and hit inspect, you will look at the markup of this page, and this is an image tag and this is the source of that icon. So if I just copy this and I can open it in the browser. So this is how you download this icon. Okay, let's do the same thing for Ethereum. If I do a right click and inspect, again it's an image tag and this is the URL. So if I just copy this, this is how you download the icon. So let's compare these two URLs, right? The one for Ethereum and the one for BTC. You can see that it's pretty much the same except for this ID, right? So what we'll do is we'll create a simple Node app that takes this ID and the label and downloads the icon, right? And once we have that ready, we'll call that script from the browser console for all the available assets. And that's how we download the icons for all these assets. So yeah, first let's create a simple Node app. I'm going to need these three modules to create the Node app. The first one is got, which is to call this API. So just to make an API call. And then I need CORS to avoid cross origin, the CORS header issue, because I'm going to run this script from the browser console, right? So if I don't have CORS header included, the browser will not allow me to run the script. So I need that. And also an express package to create a simple route. Okay, you'll understand why I need this once we start writing the code. But yeah, let's first build this app. So first I'm going to initialize a simple Node app. Then I'm going to install all the dependencies. Then let's create index.js file, which is going to be the main point of entry. And here, let's first create a simple Express server. Okay, one other thing that I want to do is use ES6 modules. So I'm just going to add this in the package.json file as ES6 module. That's it. So yeah, first let's create a simple Express server. Let's start the server and see if it works as expected. Let's go to the browser and open port 3000. Yeah, you get this error, but you can see that it works. Now let's create a simple route. It's going to have two parameters. One is the ID and the other one is the label. For now, let's just send this message, success message, and see if the API works. Let's restart it. Flash download. I'm just going to pass some random ID and label as BTC. Awesome. So the route works. Now let's add the feature to download that SVG file. I'm going to do it in a separate module. So I'll just say download.js. And here is where we're going to do it. Okay. So first I need that got package to make the API call. So I'll import all the dependencies. To save the file locally, I'm going to need this fs module. Fs is native to Node.js, so you don't have to install it separately. And then I'm going to use promisify to convert write file into an async version of write file. This download function is going to take two parameters, the ID and the label. And let's look at the URL, right? We did this earlier. So this is the URL, and we just need to pass the ID over here. Then I need to create a folder to download the logo. So I'll just say Bybit logos. Okay. And let's create a path. And then we'll make that API call using got. And then we need to write the file. So let's create an async version of write file. And then we can say await. First we pass the directory. And then I'm going to call it, label it with the label name. I mean, name it with the label name. So label.svg. So label is the variable that has the actual token or asset name. So we'll save it as label.svg or btc.svg or eth.svg, and then we'll pass the content, which is in response.body. Okay, that's it. And after all this, we just return a success message. Now let's call this module from index.js. Let's first import it. And first, let's destructure these two parameters from here. These are in request.params. And then just call this download function. And just return the message from here. Let's restart this module, restart this app, and let's try to download it, right? Let's try with Ethereum, right? Download Ethereum, and I'll put the label as ETH and hit enter. Again, this is a simple express route, right? You can call it directly from the browser and hit enter. You see a success message, and if I go to the folder Bybit logos, okay, there was an error. Okay, I forgot to include a wait statement. This is an async function, right? So I have to wait for the API call. Now it should work. Let's run it again. Success. If I go to the folder, you can see eth.svg downloaded. It's not visible from here, but if I open it from here, the svg file, you can see the icon. What you see here is the svg path, and this is the actual visual representation of that path. So the script works. So we can just, whenever we call this API and pass the ID and the label, it just downloads the svg for us. Let's do the same thing for BTC too, right? So let's call this BTC, and yeah, let's just call this BTC. Success. And if I go over here, you can see it's downloaded for BTC. And again, if I open it from here, this is the logo for BTC. So we're done with the first part. It's really easy, right? It's a very simple script. All it does is it takes the ID and the label and downloads the svg file. Now what we're going to do is we'll create another script from here that identifies. The first step that we'll do here is identify the ID and the label for all these assets, and then call this route for all the combinations. Now let's identify the ID and the label of all these assets. So previously when we hit on inspect, we saw that it's an image tag, right? So first let's select all the images on the website. So we can do that by saying document dot query selector all. You can use arrows to navigate through the commands and select all the image tags. Okay, so this returns a node list. It looks like an array, but it's not. if you expand the node list and hover over each tag, you can see that the UI, the element being highlighted on the website to the left. Okay, so the first one is the logo, and if you scroll down to 15 is when we see the logo of these assets. And if you expand this one, you see there's an attribute called alt, which has the label name, and we're going to use this attribute to identify the label of these assets. And if you scroll down even further, there's another attribute called source. Yeah, there are quite a few attributes. If you scroll down even further, there's another attribute called source, which contains the URL of this asset. Okay, so we're going to use source and alt attributes to identify the label and the ID uh, of these assets. Again, ID is available on the URL, so we need these two to create that. And we also need to exclude the first few ones, right? We don't want logo or any of these other icons. So how do we do that? We can use this filter on alt attribute. So you can see that alt is set to BTC for these icons, but for these other ones, right, alt is empty. So you can filter by only the icons that have this alt attribute. Thereby, you can exclude all these above ones. Is equal to, first I'm going to convert into an array using a spread operator. Document dot query selector all image, and we can use filter to filter out by alt, and then return d dot alt d dot source. So this should filter out all the images that does not have an alt attribute and just return the alt and the source tab. So let's see what the result is. Yeah, it has 12 elements, and we can see the label and the URL, but it also includes logo that we don't want. So let's exclude logo as well. So here we can say d dot alt and d dot alt is not equal to logo. Hit enter. Now we only see 11 elements, and yeah, we have the label and the URL. Now we need to get the ID from the URL. So let me show you how to do that. Copy the string contents, and I'm just going to clear everything. So if you look at the URL, if I split it by /, the last element would be the id.svg. And so let's do that. Dot split by slash. So let's do it step by step, right? If I split by slash, it returns an array of 4 elements, and the last one in this array would be the id.svg. So dot slice of -1. So that gives me the last element. Now I need to remove the .svg towards the end. So we can do that by doing another slice operation of 0, -4. So that removes the last 4 characters, and if I hit enter, that should give me then we should be left with the ID. So, right? So let's copy this and apply this on the main function. So assets d.source.split. That's it. So hit enter. Right, now we should see just the label and the ID. Okay. Now let's create another function that just takes this ID and the label and calls this API. Okay, so I'll just call it download is equal to I'm going to destructure label and ID from the parameters, and we don't need a third-party module for this. Browser has fetch module that allows us to make API calls, and let's copy the URL. Where is it? And here we pass the ID. We just replace the ID in BTC with the variables ID and label. That's it. So now we have to call this function for all these assets. So we can do that by saying await promise.all assets.map download of t. We can, or if this, you can even simplify it by just saying download. That would do the same thing. If I hit enter, okay, this is why we needed the CORS package. So you can see the browser did not allow us to call this API because of the CORS policy. CORS stands for cross origin resource sharing. So what it simply means is, the website that you're accessing is bybitglobal.com, whereas the URL that you're calling belongs to localhost of 3000. So because these two are not from the same origin, the browser would not allow you to make this API call unless you include this cross access control allow origin header. So you can do that using this package that we installed. So remember, we installed CORS package, right? So let's use it now. So let's import CORS from CORS, and we just have to add a middleware here. Yeah, app.use CORS. That's it. Let's restart and go back to the browser. Let's call it again. Awesome. So now you haven't seen any error. Again, it returns undefined, but that's okay. Like I said, we are looking at a quick and dirty way to get it done. But if you go to the app and expand Bybit logos, you can see that all these logos are downloaded. That is so sweet, right? The only thing that we have to do now is to find a way to run it on all the nodes. So if you notice here, there are only 11 nodes, right? So what's happening here is these logos, these assets are loaded dynamically depending on your window size. If I zoom out a little bit, so now you see there are 11 nodes, right? So if I zoom out a little bit, 75%, right? Let's call it again. Sorry, 12. We only see 12 tags, but let's zoom out even further, right? Let's zoom all the way to 25%. Yeah, we cannot go any lower, but if I call it again, yeah, there are 45 assets now. So now we can download 45 assets in a single swoop. And you can see the nav bar, the scroll bar also became bigger. So now all you have to do is just call this function a few times. In order to make it simplified, I'll just copy this entire step and paste it over here. Now all we have to do is run just the single command to be able to download, for one page. All you have to do is run the script once, bring the scroll bar down, run it again, and repeat the step until you finish all the symbols. It looks a bit cumbersome, but it's far better than running it at 80% magnification, right? Because then you would only have 12 pairs and you would have to do it a lot of times. But if I do it at 25%, then I only have to run it a few times, right? So let's do that. Delete everything. It looks like download function is not created. Let's create the download function and let's run it. Awesome. So this is finished. I'll scroll down. Again, you don't have to do it exactly. You can, even if a few symbols overlap, it's still fine because it's just going to download again with the same label and ID. So overwriting the files is not an issue. So you don't have to be accurate. So first step is done. I scroll down a little bit. Let's do it again. Again, I'll repeat this. I'm using my thumb. I can't record it, but I'm using my thumb to get the scroll bar approximately right. Scroll down again. Let's run it. Awesome. And scroll down again. Let's run it again. Again, I can write another script to automate this, but I want to keep it simple. All right, I finished running the script, and I think we should be done with all the pairs. If I go to Bybit logos, let's open it from here. Yeah, there are 330 items. So looks like all the pairs are downloaded. So there you go. So that's how you download the icons for all these assets directly from the website. I know it's a little bit clunky. You have to use a scroll bar to run the script multiple times. But like I said, if you run it at 25% magnification, it's not a big deal. You only have to do it probably like 5 to 6 times. And it's completely free, so you can't beat that. It might also look like a lot of work, but keep in mind that I'm explaining it as I do it. But if I just did the task, I would have done it in probably 15 to 20 minutes. It wouldn't take longer than that.